Welcome, everybody, to Survive in Advance on the Gruely True Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. To get up to 100% cash back bonus on your first deposit up to $300, go to thegruelytruth.com, click on the banner at the top of the page. I am your co-host for Survive in Advance, Mike Goodpaster. And right now I'd like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing great. Right in the middle of this draft. Excited today because I finally get to watch my Colts make a pick, second pick of the second round. I'm excited about that. They've got 3 picks in the second round, and as Anthony pointed out on Twitter today, there is a lot of talent still left out there, and I think it's a good move on their part to dump that late first-round pick and just go ahead and pick up a couple more second-round picks, and they're in good shape now. All
right, and of course, you mentioned Anthony. We might as well just call him a co-host during football season and football.
Yeah, exactly.
Phase.
Yeah.
And see, Anthony Cervino from the FF Face-Off. When it was the college basketball tournament, and it looked like we were ignoring you, didn't I tell you? As soon as this is over, the NFL draft, you're going to be busy.
Oh yeah, and I'm happy about it. I love this time of year.
Yeah, and actually, tonight may be my favorite time of the year because the second and the third round is always more interesting. And off of last night's picks, I mean, there's a lot of guys left here that a lot of people thought would go in the first round, Anthony.
Yeah, and what I think the smart teams did was trade out, like I pointed out, and what Steve pointed out, like the Colts. They acquired a handful of picks on day 2. Look at the Giants and the Raiders, the teams that each had 3 picks. They didn't have the most impressive of drafts. I think the teams that are going to draft today are going to be the real winners.
Yeah, and when you look at the Raiders, you got 3 first-round picks, and you basically, I think, made one really good pick, another one that I think will be a solid player, and then another one that I think there was better guys there. But let's go ahead and let's get into this. We're going to start off at the top with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. When I look at this, Anthony, I don't like the pick. I'm not sold on Murray as an NFL quarterback. I think he does have the capabilities to be one. But to me, what this comes down, this just screams we're idiots. Because last year, they draft Josh Rosen. This year, they draft Kyler Murray. So it has to make you wonder what the hell's going on at the top of the organization.
Yeah, and it all comes down on Bidwell and Steve Keim, who has put together a few quality Cardinals team that has made a little bit of a run. But in the past couple of seasons, since losing Carson Palmer and Bruce Arians, it seems like the franchise and Keim's decision-making has fallen apart with the head coach, Steve Wilks, that didn't work out last year. He trades up to get Josh Rosen last year, and he played well, he got hurt, and then you want to put him on a trading block, and then you go ahead and take Kyler Murray, and you still have Josh Rosen. I think the wise thing to do would be to keep both quarterbacks, and just as an insurance policy, while they're both on a rookie deal, just in case Kyler Murray doesn't work out, almost like what the Redskins did with Kirk Cousins and RG3. They drafted both of those players, one in round 1, one in round 3, and RG3 looked apart, and then it fell apart, and they had Kirk Cousins. And I think you can have a similar situation with these 2 quarterbacks in Arizona. I think you'll have to keep both. Otherwise, Steve Keim might be out of a job.
Yeah, because Steve Keim also had Wilks. I mean, he chose Wilks, and he chose Rosen. And now, there's nothing. Both of them are basically replaced immediately, and he's still the GM. Let's move on because, Steve, I think we all kind of agree. I think we agree on the Kyler Murray pick. Go ahead.
Well, the Kyler Murray, the thing I just want to say is that I think they made a mistake here because if you were talking about a Dak Prescott or Andy Dalton or and Andrew Luck, then it's worth taking that pick.
No, wait a second. It's not. It's not because I'm a Bengals fan. I like Andy Dalton. I think he's a good quarterback. I think Anthony is a huge Cowboys fan. He likes Dak Prescott. But, Anthony, I think the point here is this. Dak Prescott was the 4th round. Andy Dalton was the 2nd round. If either one of them would have been a first-round pick, they'd be a bust right now.
All right, but my point is this.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
The number 1 pick.
Golly.
At the
Number
I do
one
not
pick,
interrupt
yes.
you guys when you guys are talking.
Yes.
I keep my mouth shut when you guys are talking.
You're not right
Don't
now
interrupt.
because we're talking.
Well, I was making a point. You interrupted me.
Well, man, Anthony, we're arguing. I just don't think Dak Prescott would have been worth the number 1 pick in the draft because.
Okay. I was using him as an example. I'm saying a time-tested quarterback in the NFL who's a star. Okay? I don't know that Kyler Murray's going to have that credentials. And I think to pass on a Nick Bosa when you've got a Josh Rosen who's only had 1 year in the NFL and could possibly develop into a good quarterback, is Kyler Murray going to be that much better than a Josh Rosen? You know, we don't know, but we know for sure that Nick Bosa is going to be a bitch on defense. And to say, okay, I've got a young quarterback. I'm buying another young quarterback. I've wasted 2 first-round picks on young quarterbacks, and I passed on arguably probably going to be one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. And I think that's a dumb move. That's all I was going to say. Now go argue.
Nah, it's not an argument.
I thought you said a first-round pick. I didn't.
No, I meant the first pick in the
clarify.
draft.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
they would be a bust.
if you're a top 5 quarterback in the draft with the amount of money you're making and the expectations, because Dak Prescott and Andy Dalton didn't come in with huge expectations. I mean, Dalton,
But they're great quarterbacks now.
Yeah, the Dalton thing was he came in with the expectation and he was going to be the starting quarterback because Carson was gone. Dak came in as a developmental guy who was going to sit behind Romo for a year or two and then maybe be the starter. But probably, I think even Cowboy fans, Anthony, thought he was more of just a guy that's going to be a backup. And when Romo is done 2 years from now, we're going to draft another quarterback, and Dak Prescott will be the backup for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me redirect. If there was if you had if it's an Andrew Luck over Josh Rosen, take it.
Well, yeah.
But if it's a Kyler Murray over Josh Rosen, and you can get a Nick Bosa, I don't know.
Well, you could have had a Nick Bosa, a Quinnen Williams.
Williams, yeah.
You had to me Bosa, Williams, Hawkinson, Josh Allen. Probably the best players in the draft, and you passed on all of them, and you talked about Nick Bosa. I think the San Francisco 49ers, what they've done here is if Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, Anthony, I think the Niners could be the best team in that division.
Yeah, and I alluded to this on Twitter after the Bosa pick that between Garoppolo and McKinnon coming back, they signed Tevin Coleman. They signed a bunch of defenders to improve their pass rush. And then Bosa is a player that could, or is at least expected to be an impact player immediately. The 49ers can make noise in a really strong West.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can crown them the best because all these new pieces need to gel.
Yeah.
But I think they're at least a wild card team.
But I think also you have big questions still in Seattle and in L.A. Seattle, I actually feel safer with than L.A. just because of Russell Wilson. Pick number 3, the New York Jets took Quinnen Williams, Steve, and
no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. That's a B-plus, A pick. I mean, the only reason I would call it a B-plus pick is I think Josh Allen. I don't know. Do you think, Anthony, that Josh Allen would have filled a bigger need for the Jets?
I think he would have filled a greater immediate need, but Quinnen Williams, I feel like, is the more slam dunk can't miss player of the two.
Well, because
we've seen pass rushers like a Vernon Golston fail.
Yeah, and this is the thing with Quinnen Williams. That's why what I brought up last night, if I was the Niners, I'd take him, just because he's the safer pick. We don't know what's going to happen with Bosa. He is coming off an injury. But I think the Jets and the 49ers both hit it out of the park here. Now, when we go to a team that didn't hit it out of the park would be the Oakland Raiders, Steve. And I know you're really good friends with Mike Mayock. What's he doing?
He's trying to do everything he can to wreck a football team.
Well, it's either him or Gruden. You know,
Gruden, combined, it's like Dumb and Dumber. I mean, I don't know. To take, Cleveland Farrell, there were other. Josh Allen was still available at that point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what their thinking is. I mean, Gruden's kind of a guy that I've always taken as like, he thinks he's smarter than everybody in the world. And I just think he goes against the grain sometimes just to go against the grain. I mean, I think they could have made a better pick here. I don't know what Clinton Farrell is. He a pretty good player?
He's a really good
Clemson
player.
Had a great defense, so he's not a good player, but they could have done better here. There were a
Put
lot
it
of
like
better
this.
players available.
I think your analogy on Andy Dalton and Dak Prescott plays well here because I don't think value-wise this is a real good pick, Anthony. I think Cleveland Farrell will be a really good player for the Raiders for a long time, but he's not a guy worth the fourth pick in a draft, especially when you've got Josh Allen and guys like that underneath of him.
Yeah, I agree. When you're picking in the top 10, even more so the top 5, you're drafting a player that, A, you believe will be a starter, and a Pro Bowler for the next 10 to 12 years, but you also believe they have the ability to lead you to a championship, and they'll be in Canton, Ohio one day.
Yeah.
Cleveland Farrell may never be that, but I think he'll be a quality starter in the league for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's not a good pick, but I think he is a good player, if that makes any sense, Steve.
Yeah, no, and even Ed Oliver was still available at that time.
I'm not as big a fan of Ed Oliver as others are, but we'll get to him in a little bit. Number 5, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers took Devin White. I'm not completely sold on White, but I think with the Bucs, I think this is a quality pick just because it does fill a gigantic need here, Anthony.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I talked about it last night that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they lost a couple of defensive players, including Quan Alexander, who I believe landed with the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah. And when Alexander, he's always dealt with injuries, but when he was on the field, he was a game changer. That Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense was a lot better. And I think the Devin White pick was to replace that and get a little bit more stability at the second level.
All right, that's enough about that because we're all going to want to chime in on Daniel Jones at number 6 to the New York Giants, Steve. And this is a team that passed on Josh Allen to take Daniel Jones.
I can't explain it. All I can say is this is why the Giants go 0-7 at the start of every season. I mean, they make picks like this. They did nothing to strengthen their football team with this pick at all. I mean, they're going to play Eli Manning. Daniel Jones not going to play this year at all.
He'll play this year.
Okay.
This is going to be.
You think?
Do you remember when Kurt Warner went to the Giants and he was their free agent quarterback and they drafted Eli Manning? And even though Kurt Warner had the Giants, I think at like 5-3 or 5-4, Anthony, at that point, they benched him and put Eli Manning in. And the thing is this: when you pick a quarterback at number 6, at the first sign of distress, Daniel Jones is going to be summoned to play quarterback probably at the halfway point of this season.
Yeah, as soon as they're mathematically eliminated, they're going to be calling for him to get in. I mean, look at Carson Wentz. If you remember when the Eagles drafted Carson Wentz, they had Sam Bradford. And Wentz was never supposed to see the field in his rookie year, and then he was kind of forced into it. I thought he would have saw the field whether Bradford was injured or not. No, they traded Bradford. I'm sorry. They traded Bradford so they can play Wentz right away.
Yeah. And my thing about Daniel Jones – go ahead.
Is a rookie Daniel Jones anywhere near a rookie Eli Manning?
A rookie Eli Manning was not that good his rookie year. I would say this. Daniel Jones is going to be a complete failure from what I've seen. He's a guy that when you watch him completed less than 60% of his passes in college. I think his total college touchdown passes were right around what Dwayne Haskins did for a year. And I'm not sold on Haskins. But what I see with Jones when I watched the film, and I watched it again this morning before I took my kids to work, just because I wanted to see if maybe there was something that I was missing. And what I see is, you know how we talk about Dak Prescott can't throw guys open? Daniel Jones can. But the problem with Daniel Jones is this. I don't think he can read a defense after the ball is snapped. And what I mean by that is he's in a offense at Duke that everything is predicated basically off of pre-snap reads. Almost every one of his interceptions I found was something where, as the ball's being snapped to him, the defense would rotate real quick. Say they're in cover 2, then all of a sudden they jump up and they're playing man, or they look like man and they bail and play cover 2, and he still is throwing the ball to where his pre-snap read was. So my question is, he's got David Cutcliffe as his quarterbacks coach, and he's a good quarterbacks coach. So being that he's a good quarterbacks coach, I'm sure that he's tried to get him out of this, and it hasn't happened yet. And I'm doubting the New York Giants quarterback coach is as good as Cutcliffe. I think they're falling in love with the fact that Cutcliffe is the same guy that coaches both Mannings, and I think they're hoping to get Eli Jr. here. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go to a team that I think hit a home run. The Jacksonville Jaguars drafted Josh Allen. This is a guy that I think is a what?
Are you admitting something good about somebody from Kentucky?
Yeah, he plays Kentucky football. I don't have anything against them. They lose most of the time. They were good this last year, though, and a lot of that was because of Josh Allen. And I think the Jaguars here, they got tremendous value at this pick, Anthony.
Yeah, and a lot of boards had Jacksonville going with Jawan Taylor, who wasn't even drafted in the first round. I know offensive line was in need, but not many people expected Allen to be available at 7, and Jacksonville, since trading away Dante Fowler, was looking to replace him, and they did that with Josh Allen. I think he vastly improves a defense that struggled last year.
Yeah, and Steve, I think we're going to jump ahead because I think we all agree on both of these guys, so I'll let Anthony talk about Josh, and I'll let you talk about TJ. The Detroit Lions, to me, tremendous value again. I think TJ Hawkinson is one of the top 4 or 5 players in this draft, and this is an outstanding pick. And Matthew Stafford, I think, just got a little bit better because the best friend of a quarterback is a really good tight end.
Well, a couple things here. First off, I'm tired of this thing about comparisons to Rob Gronkowski. Hawkins has never thought himself, from what I've heard, as a Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski is a mold of clay that's been put away. I mean, he's going to be one of the best tight ends ever to play the game in the end of it. But Hawkinson's his own guy, and the thing that the Lions got with Hawkinson is, like I said, we talked about it a little bit last night on our live program. That's a twofold thing for him. This kid can block. He can run routes. He catches the ball well. And, there's very few tight ends out there in the NFL. You alluded to this yesterday, Mike, on our show, that tight ends are not good blockers in the NFL. But Hawkinson comes into it as a good blocker. Now, if he retains those skills, as well as, pass-catching ability and his route-running ability, Lions almost got 2 players here. They got another lineman, and they got a great tight end.
Yeah, and I think that's what people miss with him. All right, Buffalo Bills, number 9, Ed Oliver. Anthony?
Another quality pick. Buffalo needed help on the defensive line. They made a lot of additions to their offense in the offseason. They brought in the pass catchers. I thought they should have gone offensive line here to get Josh Allen, who ran for his life last year, some protection. But you really couldn't go wrong with Ed Oliver at pick 9.
I don't like him. I think he's inconsistent. I think he could be a big-time player. What?
Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. Finish it. Before you finish it, Oliver, I got something to say.
I think he could be a big-time player. My biggest concern with the Bills and why I don't like this pick, I think Ed Oliver's an all right pick, but I just don't think they have a big need at defensive tackle. I mean, this to me is not getting value.
You don't think it's getting value? I mean,
no. I don't think you need him here. I don't care where he's. All right, let's see if he's any good. All right, let's see. I think he'll be a solid player. He's not worth the 9th pick in the draft at defensive tackle, and I think the Bills had much bigger needs than defensive tackle. And as you said, they could have picked up Jonah Williams here, which would have made them a better football team right away. Ed Oliver improves depth, and he's going to have to be a real stud to improve this team right away. I think a guy like Jonah Williams would have improved it right away.
You don't think that Oliver can come make an immediate impact? Their defense already has some talent in their front seven. I think he just bolsters it.
Well, all I know is this. When you
Look
don't...
at the firepower the Patriots have, the Jets have.
Well,
they need to combat that somehow.
All I know is this. I don't like risking a top 10 pick on a guy that's inconsistent. Ed Oliver was inconsistent in college. That's all I'm saying. I mean, he looks the part. Let's see if he can play the part. Steve?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Anthony, I'm going to let you cover the next two picks because you can cover your most hated team and your most loved team. So you give us your input on the next two picks.
I'm not a big Devin Bush fan, but I think with the Steelers, if this makes any sense, Anthony, I think it's worth a shot because I think Devin Bush is a guy that if you put a little weight on him and he gets a little bit bigger and stronger, I think his style of play fits really well with the Steelers' defense.
Yeah, and ever since losing Shazier a couple years ago, the Steelers' defense fell apart. And after Devin Bush, after the two Devins, there is a pretty significant drop-off in linebacker talent, and I think the Steelers did what they had to do to get the top player on their board.
All right, then we go to 11 with the Bengals.
Mike, let me ask you a question. They gave up a lot to get him. They gave up their number 20 pick and 52 pick overall this year, and a 2020 third-round pick. Is that too much to give up for a Devin Bush?
Not if you think if they don't get this, and as Anthony just said, there was probably only two linebackers here that could have really been an immediate impact for them. So I think it's a good move. Like I said, I'm not completely sold on Bush, but I think in the defense that the Steelers run, he is a perfect fit. And a lot of times you may have a guy that you think is a better player, but this guy fits your defense perfectly. You go with the guy that fits your defense perfectly. I think he can make an impact right away. So when I graded that on the article that I wrote that'll be out later today on thegruelingtruth.com, I graded it as a B, even though I do have some doubts about Bush. And in the end, though, when I look at it, if this would have been the Cincinnati Bengals had the same linebacker problem the Steelers have. So if I'm the Bengals, I probably would have taken Bush. But with that being said, the Bengals took guard/tackle Jonah Williams with the 11th pick. I think this is a pick that makes them a better team right away. I don't think necessarily it makes them a good team, but I think it does make them a better team. And I know there's a lot of people that are morons that live in Cincinnati that are upset because Dwayne Haskins wasn't taken. But, Anthony, did you see Dwayne Haskins' interview after he was drafted by the Redskins?
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins believes he's the best quarterback in this class. He believes that it's a joke that Daniel Jones was taken in front of him, and he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder.
But when I saw that interview, I was real glad it confirmed why I didn't want him here. I mean, I thought he looked like an ass. Who cares? You were the 15th pick. You got drafted in the NFL, and you're going to make millions of dollars. Shut up and go play and prove it. You know, you don't have to stand there with a mean scowl on your face and look like basically an asshole. Because he's got to realize this. He's going to be a Washington Redskin, and they can ruin a quarterback really quick. Ask RG3.
Well, RG3 got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt because of coaching.
Oh.
They continued to play him in a playoff game where the dude could barely walk. They ruined him. And they didn't give him linemen around him. And they still don't have a very good line. I don't know. We'll get to him in a second. But we'll go to 12, the Green Bay Packers, Rashawn Gary. To me, from what I've seen of Gary, and I know Matt Minnick talked about it, the defensive line coach at Michigan is about the best one in the country. And the fact that he's still an underachiever that doesn't have a whole lot of moves, doesn't use his hands a whole lot, still concerns me, Anthony.
Yeah, there is concern there. I'm a little surprised at the pick.
Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, the reports I read on him, it's like either feast or famine with him. He's either really good or really bad. The other thing, the rumor is he might have to have shoulder surgery.
Yeah.
There's some speculation that his shoulder's not that good, and so you're using a 12th pick in the first round, taking a player with a potential injury, you may lose him for the whole damn season.
And they
not even play this year.
They added a ton of talent in free agency at pass rusher, whether you're talking about Preston Smith, who came over from the Redskins, or Zadarius Smith from Baltimore.
See, this may be crazy.
I don't know
if I was Green Bay, I'd have went with Chris Lindstrom, the guard.
Yeah, I think on the show last night, we were all thinking offensive line.
Lineman, yeah, protect it. Rodgers, Rodgers was, he's getting pummeled last year. Find somebody to protect him.
Well, let's go to one that surprises me. The Miami Dolphins at 13 took Christian Wilkins. I think this is a great pick for them, Anthony. And the reason I say that is Wilkins, I think, is perfect for the type of defense that Brian Flores likes to run, which means he stunts really well. And I like this pick. I think he fits well here. And for the Dolphins, you never know. Maybe they could go 1-15 and then pick up Tua Tagovailoa to play quarterback next year.
Yeah, what this Christian Wilkins pick says to me is safe. They want to build around Brian Flores' philosophy. They weren't going to take a chance on any of these quarterbacks, especially this early on a rebuilding team, if they didn't believe in them. And if they want to go and get Tua, their season's probably going to end up like that because they have Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback.
Yeah, but the thing is this, what Wilkins tells me is they have a long-range plan maybe for the first time in Miami instead of just trying to fix everything as quickly as possible, because we know a few years ago they signed all the free agents. That didn't work out all right. They let Tannehill go. They gave up on him. They bring Fitzpatrick in as a stopgap. And now the first thing they do is they try to build a defensive line. And they're trying, as you said, to fit Brian Flores' defense. So if I'm a Dolphins fan, I would probably, even though we're going to suck this year, I would probably feel a lot better about this team going forward.
Yeah, it's a pick that you don't want to miss on. And it's like Clelin Ferrell.
Yeah.
Safe. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And I know they play different positions, but Christian Wilkins is better than Clelin Ferrell. Just my opinion. But number 14.
Mike, why did they give up on Tannehill?
I guess because he didn't win. I mean, if you look at his numbers aren't bad. But
what did he ever have around him, really, truly? I mean, he never really had much around him.
Well, he did a few years ago when they made the playoffs, and that team still wasn't very good. And he actually got hurt, and I think Matt Moore is the one that got him to the playoffs, wasn't he, Anthony?
Yeah, it was Matt Moore, and Tannehill was always hurt.
Yeah.
He's been hurt the past couple of years, but when Tannehill and Adam Gase were together, when Tannehill was healthy, they had a winning record. Yeah. I actually am one who believes Tannehill could be starting with the Tennessee Titans over Mariota in Week 1. I know a lot of people.
Well, he will be by Week 5 or 6 because Mariota's going to get hurt. So
they both get hurt.
Yeah.
They're going to be flip-flopping.
Who's the third-string quarterback there? Because that guy's got a job waiting on him.
Is it Gabbert?
I think so.
I think to put all of your heart and soul into Fitzmagic. He's all over the map.
Well, they're not putting it into it. He's a stopgap until they can get an actual quarterback, because that is what Ryan Tannehill has always been, which is why he's played on like half the teams in the NFL and has been a starter for almost every team he's played on at some point.
Okay, but when are they going to get a quarterback? They're not going to get one now until next year.
That's fine. You wait till next year, because this is the thing. It's just like when you talked about the Colts and they got all this salary cap money. In the end, sometimes you're better off just draft it. And if you see a guy in free agency, like I said with the Colts, there may be a guy that they're targeting next year that they want to go after. So why go ahead and spend your money now on something? Because when you go for the quick fix, when you go for the quick fix, you usually make things worse. And the perfect example of that's the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, but if I'm a fan and I'm going to pay $5,000 for season tickets a piece, and I know the Dolphins are going to tank this year by going with Fitzpatrick.
$5,000 for season tickets? What are you, sitting on the owner's lap?
No, it's L.A., man.
Thought it was New England for a second.
In L.A., you got to buy seat licensing first.
Yeah.
You have to pay to get the right to buy the tickets.
Yeah, but still.
Trust me, $5,000 gets you in the upper level here. In L.A., $5,000 gets you in the upper level. If you want to sit down on the field, you're talking tens of thousands.
Well, that's just stupid anyways. Let's go ahead.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons because we're a little short on time. We got about 25 minutes, so I want to get the guys that are there. Chris Lindstrom, I think we can all agree that was a solid pick.
Yeah.
Washington Redskins, Dwayne Haskins. I think to me is like the Arizona Cardinals. I think Murray could turn out to be a good quarterback. I think Haskins could, but the thing that really strikes me here is there may be no two worse-owned teams in the NFL, which is why I think in the end both of these guys will probably fail, and it may not even be completely their fault, Anthony.
No, and I don't know if Haskins was taken earlier by another team. I don't know if Washington would have taken Drew Lock or another quarterback if they were here. I think they felt compelled to take Haskins. I think that was their guy all along.
All right.
Whether it's right or wrong, I think that was their guy all along.
All right, 16, Carolina. Good.
Well, I think Haskins is a far better selection than Kyler Murray.
I don't.
I think he's at least as good a quarterback.
Nah.
They got it. They're going to get him for half the price.
Nope.
And I think Haskins can come in and start right away for the Redskins.
I think Kyler Murray is a much better quarterback. We know. I know this. Murray is better than Haskins. That's not saying much because I don't think either one of them are very good. But
yeah, well, I think this was a good pick for the Redskins.
All right. It's not, but we'll see.
Right.
Number 16,
right.
Remember, you picked Michigan over Villanova last year. 16, the Carolina Panthers. They picked
that was
Brian,
2 years ago.
They picked Brian Burns, defensive end out of Florida State. I think this is a guy that could develop into a good player, but as of right now, I don't think this is a very good value pick because when you watch him play, or when I watch him play at least, I don't see a guy that can play all three downs. Anthony?
You're talking about Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the Panthers had a need at pass rusher. The Panthers' defense, since the year they went to the Super Bowl, have been going in the wrong direction. You know, they brought in Bruce Irvin, who was really just a stopgap. Julius Peppers retired. They needed an edge rusher, and I think they got the best one on the board.
All right. 17, the New York Giants, Steve, Dexter Lawrence. I think Lawrence is a solid player, but once again, I don't see why the Giants are picking him at number 17.
Well, what would have made more sense is if instead of taking the quarterback with the sixth pick, if they took like a Josh Allen and then teaming up with the Dexter Lawrence, you're potentially shoring up your defense big time, and you're going to be hard to score against maybe in a year. And you know, if they take Josh Allen over this idiot quarterback, and then take Dexter Lawrence now all of a sudden they're both good picks. It elevates Dexter Lawrence as a pick.
Well,
now,
I still think Lawrence.
They're building a defense.
I still think Lawrence is a reach either way here. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I was kind of shocked that the Giants did that at 17. I think the Giants made a few, between Jones, Lawrence, and even Baker, which we'll get to later. They were all questionable picks, and I think they reached a little bit for all of them.
All right, 18.
But do you not agree if you don't pair them up, if you don't pair Allen and Lawrence together, they all of a sudden both elevate? They both elevate.
No.
Because you're building a solid defense.
I just don't think Dexter Lawrence, the way he plays defensive tackle, fits with the way the New York Giants play defense up front, unless they're going to change that.
Well, then you alter your defense to fit the talent.
Yeah, but most places don't do that. It would have made sense to me if they'd have taken like a Savage, because I like to say that name. at 17, and they'd have had Josh Allen up above him because you'd have had two violent dudes on your defense.
Yeah, and that's Savage, the guy you think's real mean.
Oh, he is real mean. But he's a nice guy.
Okay.
That's the great thing about him. It means you put him on the field, he'll kill you. But afterwards, he'll feel bad about it. 18, the Minnesota...
Kind of like an old Bob Sanders from the Colts.
I was thinking more lines of better players like Steve Atwater, David Fulcher, Dennis Smith, and Ronnie Lott. But all right, we'll go with your Bob Sanders comparison.
Move on. I know you're getting time.
18, Garrett Bradbury, which I think we all can agree is an outstanding pick. I think he's the best outside zone blocker in the entire draft. 19, this one's a little weird to me, Anthony, and that's Jeffrey Simmons, who defensive line to me is not an immediate need for them. But, of course, Simmons probably not going to be ready till at least December. But I think this is a guy that the pick could very well be an A or a B. But I think here with a team that is a borderline playoff team to do this here drops this to a C.
I don't know about that. You know, Jeffrey Simmons had a top 10 grade on him. If it wasn't for his ACL tear, I think he would have been gone way before the Titans got him at 19.
I think so, too.
I actually had him slipping all the way to 32 to New England, and I mentioned the Mike Vrabel coming from New England, similar philosophies and possibly mindset. So I understand this pick.
All right, I understand it. I just think if you want to win right now, they probably could have done something to shore something up a little sooner. Number 20, the Broncos take Noah Fant. 21, the Green Bay Packers take Darnell Savage. I love that guy, but now I don't like him anymore because he's a Green Bay Packer, and I don't like them, Steve. 22, Andre Dillard, Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not a huge Dillard fan, Anthony, but I think with Jason Peters probably playing another year, he gets to sit behind Peters and learn. I think this is probably the best situation for Dillard to turn into a quality offensive tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, Dillard was a really good pick by the Eagles, and they have a history of taking tackles in the draft, and they're usually pretty good, dating back to, I remember Trey Thomas, I think in 96 or 98. They have Lane Johnson and Jason Peters both aging and coming off injuries. It's a really solid quality pick for Philadelphia. Howie Roseman always has a pretty good offseason.
All right, 23, the Houston Texans.
Wait, Mike, can I back up just a second?
Sure.
Can I back up to the Broncos? Just real quick. I just want to get your opinion on something. Should they have taken Drew Lock over Noah Fant? I mean,
no,
Flacco's
Drew
injury prone, not the long-term answer?
Dude, no. I've already told you, there's not a quarterback in this draft where you can tell me, should they have taken him there? Unless it's that kid from Buffalo later on today or the kid from North Carolina State. I like both of those guys.
Right.
Nobody else does, but I do. Well, I think some people like the Buffalo guy.
Buffalo.
But yeah.
Yeah.
That's just because I told you it was all right to like him. All right, I'm kidding, by the way.
I'm always in favor of somebody 6'7" or above. So.
I'm not usually, because usually when you get – Anthony, haven't you found if you get guys usually over 6'7", that I don't think enough air gets to their brain and they end up kind of like idiots.
Oh, God. Why do they wake up to take this on a Friday?
Do you agree, Anthony?
What?
That usually when a guy is 6'7" or above.
Just say yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that usually
just
they're
say
an idiot.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, Steve just did that to make it sound like you were just saying it because he told you to. But we all know Anthony meant it. 23 to Houston, Texas, Titus Howard. I don't understand this pick, Anthony. I think he could be a solid player with good coaching, but the Texans are a team that needs an offensive line upgrade. They need a guy that can play right now.
Out of Tyus Howard?
Yeah. I don't think Titus Howard is going to be able to start right away. He's going to have to. But I just worry that he's going to be a little bit rushed. He came from a smaller program. I worry about his feet a little bit. And I think that he is more of a developmental tight end that 2-3 years down the road could be really good. I think that if I'm the Texans, I try to upgrade the offensive line with somebody that I think is more of a plug-and-play guy.
Well, Howard, you said tight end. You said tight end. He's a tackle.
I know. I said tackle
Oh,
Titus Howard.
You said tight end.
It's to tackle Titus, I think.
Yeah, you said tight end.
Nobody cares what you think, Risley. I said tackle. All right, what do you think, Anthony?
I think when you see a player
Jesus
like
Christ.
Titus Howard going to the Texans there, it makes me wonder why wasn't Juwan Taylor drafted in the first?
I don't know.
What was the red flag? Because I think he's a better player.
Yeah, I do too. But obviously somebody in Houston's scouting department doesn't think that. Steve, 24, the Oakland Raiders, Josh Jacobs. I think this was a no-brainer, which the Raiders have no brains, so they got one pick right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Great player, good kid. They need a running back. It's just a good pick. Yeah. It's probably the only good pick they made all night.
All right, 25, the Baltimore Ravens, Marquise Brown. Anthony, I think this is an excellent pick. It's better than DK Metcalf. I think he could be huge in helping to huge in the development of quarterback Lamar Jackson, who needs a guy that can run some routes and catch the ball for him. I think Brown's a great pickup.
Yeah, I thought the Ravens were going receiver all along. I actually had them taking Marquise Brown, assuming DK Metcalf would have been gone, but that's another story. He brings speed to an offense that needs speed. They need pass catchers. They need receivers. But what they also need is to develop Lamar Jackson. They need Marquise Brown to get to rookie OTAs ASAP, whenever that starts, and work out with Lamar Jackson.
All right, 26, the Washington Redskins.
But wait, I gotta say one thing. That's one thing. Marquise Brown is a freaking great receiver's name too.
Oh, Hollywood.
That's got wide receiver written all. Yeah, Marquise Brown. That's got wide receiver written all over it.
Yeah, he'll be a stud. If Antonio Brown could be, Marquise definitely will be. It has nothing to do with talent. It's all about the name. That's why, does Daniel Jones sound like the name of a Hall of Fame quarterback?
No, sounds like a rock star. It sounds like a monkey.
A monkey?
Wouldn't it? Oh, it was Davy Jones.
Davy Jones. Yeah, was it the Monkeys, Davy Jones?
Daniel Jones.
I'd take the last trade into Clarksville.
I DVR the Monkeys. I watch the Monkeys every day.
Okay.
Here
do
we
you
come,
mean you go to the zoo?
Walking down the street.
Go ahead. Keep going.
We get the funniest looks from everywhere we meet.
Hey. Okay. I was going to sing it with you, but it's too late now. Number 26, the Washington Redskins. Actually, I think this is a great pick for them. I like Montez Sweat, but the reason I like this even better is Jim Tomsula is one of the best defensive line coaches in all of football. I think this is a perfect place for him. I think that Tomsula will make Sweat a big-time player real quick. I think this is the best place Sweat could have gone, too, just because of Tomsula, Anthony.
Yeah, and Sweat is another top 10 talent, top 15 talent that slipped a little bit. The Redskins have a solid foundation of pass rushers and defensive front seven in place. I think Sweat is going to be a really good complement to Ryan Kerrigan, and they're going to terrorize opposing offenses in the NFC East.
Well, let me ask you this, Steve. I know the Colts don't need a pass rush because they had such a good one last year. Why did they trade away the opportunity to take Montez Sweat for a later second-round pick?
There's the controversy over his heart. We've heard many sides of it. It was detected, but then they said it might have been a misdiagnosis. I think that there was concern there. And I think that the Colts have other issues. And they thought he was a good get, but they're looking at all the talents available in the second round now. And they've got 3 second-round picks, including the second pick in the second round.
But I thought you told me they needed an edge pass rusher.
Yes, they do. They do.
Okay.
They need quarterbacks, too. And they need one wide receiver. They need a defensive backfield. And they need some defensive line power. I think to get a chance to get a couple more second-round prospects to give up on Sweat, who is kind of concerning because it's controversial whether he has heart issues or not. I mean, they may come out and say, you can't pass a physical. And now you've wasted a first-round pick.
He's already passed a physical or he wouldn't be in the draft.
Well, let's see. The controversy over the heart issue, I bet, came into play with it. But I was hoping Montez Sweat and the Colts would take him. because I like this kid from what I've seen of him. So, but it didn't happen. I think right now, looking at it so far, of all the teams that had multiple picks in the first round, the Redskins came out on top on this one. You know, they got the quarterback, and then they've got Montez Sweet. They got 2 quality players, and I think they strengthened their team as much as anybody in the first round.
Let's not totally trash the Colts here. They also got a 2020 second-round pick.
Oh, I'm not trashing him.
Once you get to this
No,
point
he's not trashing him.
I'm just saying that I think Montez.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I'm
Mike.
just saying.
Yeah,
I'm just
Mike
saying.
makes a good point.
Oh.
Mike makes a great point. In fact, the Colts are weak on our defensive line. This kid looks good. He's an edge rusher. But I think the Colts looked at the bigger picture and just said, 3 second-round picks. There's so much talent still left out there. We'll pass on Montez Sweet because he is it's sketchy with the heart thing.
I don't think it's sketchy. I think Montez Sweat's going to be a really good player, and they will regret it.
I agree.
So,
I
all right,
agree.
27, Oakland Raiders, Jonathan Abram. Pretty much he's a box thumper. Reminds me, that sounded dirty, never mind. But he's a box thumper, I think, in the mold of Landon Collins and Ron Jeremy. I think there were other choices that would have been better, though, Anthony. What do you think?
Ron Jeremy. I got that. I don't know if Anthony got that or not.
Yeah, well, Jonathan Abram
He didn't get it.
Yeah, I did get it. I'm just trying to.
He's trying to concentrate.
Jonathan Abram was not the best player on the board. He wasn't even the best safety on the board. The Raiders could have done a lot better in the draft at this pick. And pick 27 is the pick that they traded Amari Cooper for. So you basically traded away a 24, 25-year-old, 2 or 3-time Pro Bowl receiver for a Jonathan Abram who they could have gotten in the second round.
Yeah. Y'all won that one. Number 28, the Los Angeles Chargers, Jerry Tillery. Steve, what do you think? Jerry Tillery, you're a Notre Dame fan. I think there's no question that he is talented and he's an NFL-type player, but what do you think?
College is behind him. He's not taking tests anymore. He's not doing all that stuff. There's enough the locker room. If he's a distraction in the locker room, I tell you, these guys are going to shut him down real quick. He is very talented. I mean, the reports I'm looking at graded this an A. So this is an A pick. So I liked the kid until you told me about his off-field antics, and I didn't like it, especially coming from Notre Dame. But, that stuff's not on play anymore. He's not taking tests. He's not going to class. He's focusing on football full time, and we all agree that he's a very talented defensive tackle. So I think it's a good pick for the Chargers. They'll control him.
All right, Anthony?
Just like they did Ryan Leaf.
Yeah. Anthony?
I was kind of surprised Tillery went in the first round. I'm also surprised that the Chargers didn't bring in or, take the best receiver on the board. I think that's a need for them. But we are seeing all these receivers slip into the second round. That's where the Chargers could go to get one.
Yeah. I think he's definitely a player that probably worth the pick. But let's go to defensive end L.J. Collier, who I don't think is worth the pick. The Seattle Seahawks picked him up. I guess he takes the place of Frank Clark. We know he'll probably be a better character guy than Frank Clark. But I think that Collier is a huge reach here, Steve.
It seems that way. It seems to be the scouting reports on him. But, the Seahawks seem to be happy with him. And, that's about all I can say about it. I mean, it's an edge rusher. They're kind of rare now. I mean, we've kind of eaten most of those guys up in the first round. It's an iffy pick.
All right. The next pick here, number 30, the New York Giants take DeAndre Baker. I think they passed on Greedy Williams. They passed on the kid from Washington for DeAndre Baker. I think Baker's a good player, but I don't think he's anywhere near Byron Murphy or Greedy Williams, Anthony.
No, and you're leaving out also Rakia Sin. DeAndre Baker, another player that the Giants could have gotten 10 picks from now, 15 picks from now in the second round.
Yeah.
There are other needs on this team they could have filled. I know they needed a cornerback, but with Jonathan Abram going and the other safeties on the board, they could have also gotten one of those safeties. And they lost Landon Collins. They brought in a 35-year-old Antoine Bethea. What are they going to do there?
Yeah. So, it's the Giants. I mean, they have issues all over the place.
Antoine Bethea still playing?
35, 36 years old. Yep, absolutely.
Gee, good golly, Miss Molly.
All right.
Good for him.
Stop with the good golly Miss Molly, Andy Griffith stuff. 31, the Atlanta Falcons. Kalen McGarry. I think McGarry is a weird pick because I think there's better guys here. But I will say this for the Falcons, Anthony. I think they are seriously trying to improve their team where it's most important. You know, they take a guard, they take a tackle with 2 first-round picks. So I actually think that they are taking the right steps to build this team because up front, they were one of the best offensive lines in football a couple years ago, and they've dropped off since. Age has gotten them, free agency. But, I mean, overall, if I'm a Falcons fan, I'm not going to hate this draft. I just think they could have done better than McGarry at 31.
Well, the Falcons needed offensive line help just like they needed defensive line help, which I think there's still some value left in the later rounds. The Falcons are one of those teams that can win now. They have all the offensive pieces in place. They have defensive pieces in place. And what we noticed last year when Dante Freeman got hurt, they struggled to run the ball, especially in between the tackles. And if they want to make a deep playoff run while Matt Ryan is still in his prime, you need to be able to open up the holes, protect Matt Ryan, and allow Freeman and Ito Smith to run the football. And I think this draft, they accomplished that.
All right.
32. I don't mind the Caleb McGarry pick.
I don't mind it. I just think there were better tackles there. But I don't mind it. I think they're moving in the right direction. At 32, the New England Patriots take N'Keal Harry at 32. And I know, Anthony, you have some thoughts on Bill Belichick and his drafting or previous dalliances with wide receivers.
Well, yeah,
How do you like that word, Steve?
Great. Almost as good as dossier.
Go ahead, Anthony.
See, I'm educating you.
I came across an article on Bill Belichick's history drafting wide receivers, even dating back to his Cleveland Browns head coaching days. And this article stopped in 2017, but I think they only took Braxton Berrios last year, and he didn't accomplish 1,000 yards. And the only receiver that Bill Belichick has drafted to reach 1,000 yards in a season was Julian Edelman, and he's drafted 23 up to 2017. I don't know if there's many holes in Bill Belichick's coaching game, but if there is, maybe it is at wide receiver.
Yeah, but then you got the problem with this, though. He took Julian Edelman from a quarterback DB to being one of the best wide receivers in the game. Wes Welker he did that with. He took Randy Moss when people thought Moss was gone, and Moss had like 1,600 yards receiving or something crazy that year. So I don't know about that. And I wasn't a big fan of N'Keal Harry anyways. I just don't like to argue with Bill Belichick because he usually ends up right. And I still think Harry...
He missed bad.
There
were some bad misses.
I think Harry... Yeah, but you also had some guys nobody expected that turned out to be really good. And it's not like that they've lacked quality wide receivers. Now, the quality wide receivers maybe because Tom Brady's throwing to them. But I don't know. We'll see. I still think Harry has trouble getting separation. At the NFL level, I think he will at least, so we'll see. But tonight, we get the second and third round. So when we look at the second and third round, give me a few names that stand out to you, because the names that stand out to me are Greedy Williams and Byron Murphy. Where do you think they go, Anthony?
I don't know if they're going to last too far into round 2, and I'm pulling up the draft order now, or at least I'm trying to. I think they could go early, maybe a Greedy Williams to San Francisco. I think that would be a great fit. They need a cornerback. They need to get Richard Sherman help on the opposite side, and Greedy Williams or Byron Murphy would be a great fit in San Francisco. Even the Cardinals, who were expected to take N'Keal Harry today. If the Patriots didn't, they also need a cornerback to get Patrick Peterson some help. So it wouldn't surprise me if these two cornerbacks were the first two picks in the draft.
It wouldn't surprise me because of this. I think Arizona and Indianapolis are the first two. I think it's safe to say that these two guys are good enough that even if you don't have a need there comes a point where they're so good you just take them because they're still there and you get so much value for them.
Yeah, I would bet the Colts take one of them because they have a needed defensive back.
Well, you still got what is that? Remember this, Steve, too. What's weaker for the Colts, the safeties or the corners?
I think the corners.
Okay, because you've still got Nasir Adderley there too, so you got two corners and a safety, and I could see all three of those guys being gone in the first three picks, possibly. Anthony.
When's the Colts second pick in the third round?
Colts second pick is at 46, which is like 12 picks later.
Yeah, so Nasir could still be available.
I don't know. He shouldn't be, but another guy that stands out to me, Anthony, would be Jawan Taylor.
Yeah, there's a reason why he slipped out of the first round. And whoever picks Jawan Taylor is going to get a lot of value.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to know why he slipped. Did something come out? Could it be weed? Is it an injury? Is it off the field thing? Why did he slip?
Yeah. But another one, Hakeem Butler, Cody Ford. Those are guys that stick out to me too, Anthony.
Yeah, we talked about the 49ers a couple minutes ago needing a cornerback. I also think they're a team that could address wide receiver. I'm not sure if they have 2 second-round picks. If they don't, I can see them trading back into the second round to pick up a receiver and a cornerback. I think that's going to be their goal tonight.
And I'll tell you, when I look at this list of guys that are available tonight, this second round is going to be like a first round. I mean, you got Paris Campbell, Irv Smith, Dalton Reisner, Rock Ya-Sin, which is a cool name, Rock Ya-Sin.
I mean, like Anthony said, this turns out to be giving up 26 was a great move for the Colts. I mean, they got three picks in this round now, and they got a guy. Chris Ballard's no idiot. Look, he found Darius Leonard in the third round last year, and he ends up being a Pro Bowler.
Where's the Colts' third pick at? Is that at the end of it? Because I only see
57.
Two.
Like
59.
Like
59,
that,
yeah.
59,
right.
yeah.
So,
this is going to be this could be really great for the Colts.
And my dream pick for my team is Mack Wilson. Because I actually like Mack Wilson, and my team doesn't have anybody that can play linebacker right now. Anthony, your Cowboys pick in the second round? Yeah, 58.
I think they could. If Irv Smith falls, I think that's going to be the way they go.
I think that would be a good choice because you could have Jason Witten kind of coach him too. I think it would be a good situation for him. All right,
I'm trying to think of another way Dallas can go. Running back. And it sounds crazy, but there's nothing behind Ezekiel Elliott right now.
And running backs, some of them last a while, but usually a running back taps out around 30, 31 years old. How old is Ezekiel Elliott?
He's only been in the league 3 years.
I know. I was messing with you, dude. They're not going to pick a running back in the second round.
They visited with Bryce Love. They were one of the few teams that visited with Bryce Love, so that's the hot name.
Bryce Love's a dude that I think is a hell of a running back that just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Don't know why, but he did. All right. Steve, any final comments before we sign off?
Nope, not at all. We're going to be back Monday and cover second, third, first round picks.
We might as well. And then Tuesday, we've got the president of the American Cornhole Organization that's going to be on.
Sweet. Anthony, you back Monday?
Yes, I will.
Anthony, are you a big cornhole fan? We could have you on with the American Cornhole Organization's president.
No, I'm not.
Are you sure? All right, we offered. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind everybody, you can hear me and Bobby Sheridan in like 24 minutes at 2 o'clock on the Sheridan Report. Me and Jeremiah tonight, Inside Boxing Daily at 11 o'clock. And make sure you go to the iTunes store and download the Grueling Truth app, like and comment on it. You can hear Anthony Cervino on the FF Face Off. When's your next show, Anthony?
Tonight.
Tonight.
We will be reacting to the first round. We will talk about fantasy football implications, and we will do a little bit of a preview of the rest of the draft.
And I'll give you this, Anthony. On Monday, we'll go through all these teams' drafts, and then I'll give you 10 or 15 minutes to talk about the biggest fantasy football value players from the draft.
Sounds great.
Because you forgot about that last night. But we really didn't have much time. This draft goes a lot quicker than it used to.
Yeah.
But
yeah, last year there was some downtime, but not so much last night.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you can hear all of our shows on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, Zeno Live Radio, YouTube, Barn Burner, pretty much any place you find sports podcast, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.